Good morning and welcome to the Leadership and Insurance Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Bond, and I'm really lucky today to be joined by Neta, who is CTO and co-founder of Parametrix. Hi, how are you?
Hello, doing very well. How are
Good.
you?
Yeah, I'm all right. We're doing that ruse of speaking for 10 minutes and then starting a conversation again, which always feels a bit awkward. But look, you work for a fantastic business and yeah, really excited to have you on. So thank you very much for being here. Always have to start with, you introducing yourself and the business. So yeah, if you could take it away, I'd love to hear how you frame what it is that you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe just a little bit about me. So hi, my name is Neta. I'm actually originally from the California Bay Area, but I went to university in Israel. I've worked in both places. I have a background in software engineering, and I was a software engineer for a number of years. And my background has always been technology. And then just a little bit about Parametrix. So we've essentially created downtime insurance. And that means that when the cloud goes down, that's a risk that today businesses can financially protect themselves against and get coverage for. And that's important because today cloud is the second or third expense that a business has. And actually cloud consumption is only growing. So this risk is really only growing as we see more and more businesses adopt digital services and cloud services.
It's fascinating. I really want to get into that. That is a new, a new sort of invention of an insurance product. So that's that's hugely exciting. It's not often we can talk about that on an insurance-based podcast.
Right.
So yeah, I wanted to dig into that, but I wanted to go back to you on your team. So you all meet at university. I'm always intrigued by this because I'm a solopreneur. It probably says I'm just not very good with friends. But what's it like working with a bunch of people that you're friends with, particularly through the pressures of a fast-growing startup business? I wanted to know the pros and the cons. Yeah, so there must be both sides of it. How's that experience been?
Right. I think I get to see my co-founders more than I see anyone else in my life. And so you have to have a great connection with your co-founders. And I really don't think it would have been possible without each one in the mix. I think we really complete each other. And at this point, they're my best friends. So we're business partners and friends, and that just makes the journey so much better.
Yeah. Any negatives about that setup? Any like, I mean, I don't want to dig the dirt, but I always think, is it harder to sort of push on things you believe because these are your friends rather than, I think you have to be friends in business, but there's sort of boundaries of that, whereas you guys were sort of friends first, then business partners. So is that a factor sometimes that it's harder to sort of push against these things that you don't necessarily agree on?
I think you'll always have disagreements with anyone that you're working with. And I think as friends, you just kind of find a way of getting over it. I don't see, I've heard horror stories, but we haven't really experienced that. I think we've really just been able to complete each other through the good times and the bad, and I hope that continues.
Say I'm not wishing any bad situations on you guys at all, but I always think that's intriguing. But it's you've got very delineated roles, like you know where each one's lane, so I think it's all about kind of respecting that space as well. But yeah, no, thank you. I mean, teams is a fascinating part of what we do, and I always think we talk to investors and VCs quite often, and it's the team that they invest in. We hear that all the time. It's a lot easier when you sort of turn up and there's four of you and you're experts in your kind of certain categories. So yeah, fascinating. So let's talk about you created essentially a new insurance product. How does one go about that? Because it's not a variation on a theme. Like, how do you get your pricing right? How do you get your model right for a new product?
Yeah. So we have created a new product. The pricing, the models, the data, nothing existed before. So we had to start from scratch. Our first hires were insurance hires. So we have a team of actuaries in-house, and that was really one of the first hires that we had. And it was important for us to see that we can actually create these models. The data was something that we collected as well. So we actually we've built our own monitoring system that collects data about cloud and cloud downtime. And we collect over 675 million data points a week at this point. So the data and the models together are something that we had to create in order to create this new insurance product, essentially.
Now, I'm reminded of some of our notes here, which says apparently there's a story about your first actuarial hire that I should ask you about. So could you tell us about that?
Yeah. So we our first hire, and actually our first actuarial hire, his name is Daniel Benjamin. Today he's our VP of insurance. And he was our first hire. Up until today, we have no idea how how he agreed to join us at such an early stage. We were just the four of us, kind of in kind of a makeshift office space, sort of a garage type, the classic startup story. And then you get this guy that has been working for 20 years in the insurance industry at large insurance corporates. And he's sitting next to us in this garage. And it's shocking that he had so much belief in us in those early days. But today he leads an entire team, and he leads all of the models and the pricing and the aggregation risk and just everything. So it was a good bet on his side, and a very good hire on ours.
How do you make that happen? Because that's something I get asked about that a lot of the time, and I do take some roles on where I've got an investor that strongly says, we've got one at the moment where they really like the business, but they need a technical co-founder, so we're trying to find them a technical co-founder. I get technical founders who are going, we need an insurance person, but it's a really hard sell, right? So how did you sell it? Maybe we should get him on and say, well, why did you join these?
You should definitely ask him, get his side of the story, because I could tell you we were just incredible, and he couldn't say no. No, I'm kidding. But we started off small. So we started off working together. It was like 1 or 2 days a week. For about a month, and then we saw that it's working, and the data reads well, and there really is a lot of potential. And then from there it just it ended up that he joined the team full time. And so it really we started off small, and I think both sides just kind of wanted to test the waters. So it ended up working, and we were connected to Daniel through just spreading the word. We spread the word that we were looking. Initially it was for an actuary. I don't think we expected that we'd get one so good. But yeah, we just spread the word, and we're connected to Daniel, and it worked out. And for technical founders, I actually get this a lot. I get a lot of people asking if I know other CTOs that are interested in joining a startup, either as a co-founder or from an early stage. And there are a lot of people actually that are interested. I think it's just a matter of connecting them with the right founders, and because that founding team is really the important aspect, that everyone completes each other, and both from a personal aspect and a professional one.
Yeah. I mean, it's the kind of art and the science part of it. I really think it's like getting that magic right. The co-founding team is super important. So I wanted to ask you about kind of how do you generate interest? Because so you come along, you create this new product. How do you get capacity? How did you go about that journey, even in terms of practical steps? Because we talk about trying to get capacity a lot. How did you do it? How did it work for you guys?
Right. So the thing is, there's plenty of these types of risks are not unknown to the insurer reinsurance industry. There's a lot of risk that they know about, and it's just a matter of, you know, proving that you have the models and you have the data in order to actually understand this risk better than anyone else. And so it's not so much a matter of saying, hey, you know, here's this risk that you guys totally forgot about, because they've trust me, they've mapped out the risks really well. It's more a matter of saying, hey, we have this data that no one else has. We have models that are based off of this data, and no one else has these models. And let's work together and you know, create this wonderful product. And we went through a due diligence process with the reinsurers that we're working with, and it's a very long and very in-depth due diligence process. But once you're out on the other end, you have an amazing partnership where these reinsurers, you know, put their trust in you. And so we've really been able to build that trust. And it's just having data, having models, having something that someone else doesn't have.
And I think, but it's the storytelling of those models as well, isn't it? I think there's a lot of smart people out there that have come to the industry, and whether they're unable to tell the story in the right way. Does that go back to the team again, do you think, in terms of like having the right founding team that you can present that story, that picture in a compelling way? And I don't mean by that it's just a story, like it's a, you know, but it's, you can be right and not accept it as well, I think is what I'm trying to get at.
Right. I think the team has a lot to do with it, because when you go through a due diligence process, each one within the team will present their area of responsibility. And if you don't have the right team put together to be able to present that in a way that creates trust and in a way that creates credibility, if it's, you know, just one person saying, hey, I have a technology background and an insurance background, and I have all this data, and, you know, I have business background and sales background, you know, maybe that's a little harder to sell, but if you have a team that, you know, hey, Daniel's done this for 20 years, you know, Tamir has already built and, you know, exited a startup before. And so you really build this team together, and in the due diligence process, I think they see that because they have individual sessions with each one.
Yeah, sounds terrifying. I wanted to go back to the nearly skipped over the sort of ludicrously large number of data points you pick up in a I think it was a week you gave me.
Right.
What are you looking at that's new and novel, that you can share? I'm sure there's some of the stuff that's kind of unique to you, but you know, and kind of, I suppose, is it the capability from a technical point of view to process that and bring value from that, or is it different data sources that's the sort of secret to doing this effectively?
No, it's all us. It's not different data sources. And I can tell you everything we're doing. I just can't tell you how we're doing it.
Yes, fair enough.
But essentially, what we're doing is mapping out the internet. So we have built and are monitoring. We've built a monitoring system and are monitoring all of the cloud services. So essentially, we monitor the infrastructure of the cloud, and we collect data while we're monitoring that infrastructure. So we'll be able to tell you exactly how AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, in all their data centers, in all the services that they provide, how those are performing. And the cloud, when you think about it, isn't just one piece. The cloud has over 250 data centers spread out worldwide. And we're actually monitoring each one from multiple points across multiple services. So that's the monitoring system that we've developed, the technology that we've developed, and it produces these 675 million data points a week. That from there, we take that and we build our models off of that.
Yeah. Begs the question as well, was there ever consideration of just creating it as a technology product and not not going down the path of kind of a sort of an insurance offering, and just perhaps selling it in a different way and using the same sort of technology?
Yeah, we've definitely been offered to, just produce technology and sell that quite a lot of times. But we see a lot of value in, because this is a new product, we see a lot of value in understanding the customer needs and being there for the customer, and generating the product itself, not just the technology and the data and the models. And so we see a lot of value in being there. It's not to say that we haven't white labeled before, but that's definitely only in markets where we don't have licenses or don't want to be licensed. And so we have, white labeled before, but definitely our preference, and I think also where we excel, is with the entire product, because that was our vision at the end of the day, and it still is. Creating downtime insurance, not just a monitoring system or producing data.
And that was the idea from inception. That was, the execution has been exactly as you planned.
More or less, but
yeah, more or less. I mean, bumps along the road, of course, but yeah, I mean, that's interesting as well, to go back to kind of building teams, because one of the things that people do is they sort of grow, and then they might shed people because they have to pivot. We're always talking about those kind of journeys as well. So it's, I think, a clarity of vision is what people, in my experience, is what people have drawn to. I always say they have to believe in the sort of like the product or service, the C-suite team, and to be frank, the investors. Like, is there enough investment there? What's the runway? All of that good stuff. So yeah, it's if you've got clarity of vision and clarity of the kind of direction, and it's very appealing to people, because it's simpler to digest, it's easier to understand. What's been the kind of feedback from the end consumer, in terms of kind of, you've been up and running some time now, so like there must be sort of some good data that you've gathered, and some even just anecdotal stuff, but yeah, what's been the kind of feedback from their side?
Yes, so we've had really, really good feedback. We see that customers have this need. They understand it, and actually that's something that I think we really we see the need when the customer just gets it. When you say, hey, cloud downtime insurance, they're like, oh yeah, of course, I spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars on cloud consumption. Yeah, of course that's something that I need to insure. If my business experiences an outage, yeah, of course that has financial repercussions for me. And so the demand is there. We have amazing feedback from our customers. And that's at the point of, the sales point, or the point of the product itself. But we also had amazing feedback from the claims that were paid. So we've actually had some outages where we had claims paid, and we had amazing feedback there as well, because our coverage is parametric as well. So there isn't this long claims process attached to the product. We monitor these clouds. We monitor the services that the customers use. We know exactly how they're performing, and more importantly, when they're not performing. And then we initiate the claims process. And so essentially, it creates an amazing customer experience that customers aren't quite used to from the insurance industry.
Yeah. I mean, I think parametric solutions are something that, the more I've got to know them, and then the sort of application, it's basically the dream insurance product. If you can make it work in a parametric way, almost why wouldn't you? I think the only time you want a human involved is those personal situations, like would I want an automatic cash payment if something tragic in my life had happened?
Right.
Maybe not, but maybe that's maybe that those are rarer. Most of the time, you're going, right, how can I get back to the situation I was in from a financial point of view? I was going to ask you like two things really off the back of that. Obviously, most of the time you're dealing with educated buyers. They're spending this money, they know what it's for. But is there an education piece that goes into some of what you do, as in like why this is important or why this is the right strategy for that, or is that less of a part of the role?
I think there's always going to be education with any product, whether it's a new product like ours or whether it's an existing product that maybe you have, some sort of innovation piece on. There's always going to be education as long as the need is there and the risk is big enough. I think that makes it much easier on the education piece, because if you have to explain the risk or explain the need, then that makes it much more difficult. In our case, it's basically just explaining how the coverage works or what a parametric coverage is, which always gets really good feedback, because it's like, oh, there's no claims process. How does
yeah.
Well, why doesn't all my insurance work that way? And so there definitely is some education, but I'd say since the demand is there and the risk is known, it makes it easier.
Yeah. Has that changed over time as well in terms of over the time you've been operating? Is that, I suppose, how much is not repeat business is like is word of, because the technology world is relatively small in terms of the people that would be responsible for these kind of large, huge infrastructures that we're talking about, and these businesses I imagine word of mouth is quite powerful in your industry, in terms of the kind of people that you were trying to cover. I was wondering if that's been a factor at all.
Yeah, word of mouth and kind of the changes that the world has experienced over the last couple of years, where everyone's been moving to more digital solutions and online more, and so cloud consumption was increasing at drastic speeds before, but now it's increasing even more than anyone could have imagined. And so I think we definitely are seeing momentum from both aspects, both word of mouth and just everyone moving to the cloud, a lot due to COVID as well.
Because what's the distribution model for the business? Who do you partner with?
So we're actually partnered with 50 top brokers in the US. We actually just launched in Europe as well. So we're live in Italy, Germany, and Austria, with more to come. And so we're partnered with top brokers there as well. Broker channels have been phenomenal for us, but we also have the option to sell direct as well. So we're licensed as well, and if need be, and it can go through us as well.
Yeah, perfect. And what's in terms of the target size of company? Is there a limit to that? I suppose more what's typical, but I think the evolution of that, because I just think I'm just sort of talking to you and I'm thinking about larger businesses, but then I'm also sitting here looking at, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday that every part of my technology stack is now cloud-based, which is amazing. But the tech stack of a recruiter is not what it was when I started. It's the significant part of my investment. It's basically the tools of my job. There'll be a load of people throwing stuff at the screen or going, yeah, but you could just do it with a phone or your black book. And yeah, okay, you could, but you can't in a modern context for scaling businesses. So even small businesses like mine are completely reliant on this. So do you cater to kind of some of the smaller businesses as well, or are you focused on kind of larger sort of enterprise size clients?
We do everything across the board. So essentially the way that, like you mentioned, anyone that's on the cloud has a need anyone that is reliant on the cloud has a need for downtime insurance. It can go from SMB, SME, and up, to large corporates, public companies. We can really do anything across that scale. And I'd say, the pricing is, so the way that our coverage is structured is it's structured in coverage per hour. So the business essentially We recommend a coverage per hour. They can adjust that based on their needs. So the smaller businesses will take a smaller coverage per hour, and the larger businesses, take a large coverage per hour. And then since the risk essentially is the cloud provider risk, the pricing is just a factor of the coverage per hour and the services that they use. It's not a factor necessarily of the business itself, because the risk here is the cloud provider going down, not the business.
Yeah, sure. No, it's an important point. I was going to say that to you as well about pricing, because one of the things that we talk about a lot is that the pressure put on the consumer to provide information of what coverage they want, and when you're buying a new insurance product, particularly a new insurance product, you don't know, because what's the cost, and so is the recommendation. It's a large part of it, because presumably with your data set, you've got a better sight of what that looks like from a cost perspective as well. So, right. That's really important. That kind of open kind of communication about pricing. Lloyd's Lab, I wanted to talk to you about, because I think that's where I first was sort of aware of you guys. I saw you go through it. I was really intrigued. I wanted to find out about that experience generally. Talk me through it as well. And what stage, kind of wanted to set the scene of what stage you were at when you went into that process as well.
Yeah. The Lloyd's Lab was a great experience. It really puts you in front of key people in the industry. And so even though we went through the Lloyd's Lab during COVID, we were able to get in contact with a lot of key people. So we had a fantastic experience there.
What was a key takeaway? Because where were you at that journey point where you were what was the point of the business that you were at? Were you live? Because time's a weird concept now with COVID. I feel like 2 hours, 2 years just got extracted. So I'm thinking, were you launched or pre-launch, or were you? What stage were you at that point?
We were pre-launch. I'm trying to think. Yeah, we were pre-launch, and actually the Lloyd's Lab. Some of our first capacity was through kind of syndicates that work with the Lloyd's Lab. And so we had a really good experience going through that. I definitely recommend it for, any startup looking to work with Lloyd's or looking to, work with key insurance players. I think the Lloyd's Lab came at a good time for us. Ideally, it would have been in person as well. But that's just not how the world wanted it to be.
No, it's such a weird period of time. I met a client last week, and we suddenly realized that we've talked for 2 years, every couple of months, and it was one of those weird things. We hadn't met in person, but it took until we were sat in front of each other and going, oh, we've never met. It was one of those strange situations, because I got to know them so well, and I'm so comfortable doing Zooms and calls like this now, that you think it's weird. I worry that it replaces it entirely, but I'm sure it won't.
And then you discover that they're really tall or really short, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting you to be this tall.
Honestly, the thing I've said twice. I've hired 2 people recently that I've never met, and the first thing I said to both of them, they're both really tall, and I was like, "Oh, you're really tall." I'm used to you being specifically this height to fit a screen. On the Lloyd's Lab thing, was there a sort of key takeaway from that? Something you hadn't anticipated that potentially that the insurance people that you got to interact with enabled you to take away?
Good question. I think I'll take it maybe a slightly different take on that. I think is the Lloyd's Lab gives you so many options, and you can kind of choose which way you want to take it. And kind of what type of mentors you're looking for, because there are a lot of different mentors, and I think we we were working with some of the Lloyd's players just a little bit before the Lloyd's Lab, and they kind of helped us in choosing really good mentors in the Lloyd's Lab, and so we had an amazing experience there. And so then maybe that's the little tip I can give, where just utilize what you're given in the Lloyd's Lab. It's there for your taking.
Yeah. That sounds like one of those tips for people that go and work at the when you get the crazy internships at the Goldman Sachs, is like you got to go and pick the right partners for when you're there. Yep. So like you get to make the most of it. And exactly. Yeah. No, that's intriguing. I wanted to talk to you about scale. Like, how are you going to scale what you do? You've obviously launched into Europe. What's the long-term plan? Like where's all this going? You've created a new insurance product, which is a fairly lofty thing. We're sort of getting out to global markets. Full stack insurer, working in different lines of business, or are you going to stay in your lane? What's the kind of longer term goal?
So I think we haven't even sort of seen the tip of the iceberg of what this coverage is for the industry. We haven't even tapped into a small percentage of the potential with just cloud downtime insurance. And so essentially we're scaling with this product where we have amazing partners always looking for more. Brokers kind of see it as an additional product to add to their already existing portfolio. So it's one of those types of products that doesn't clash or they have to kind of see what other product they take out in order to put this product in. And so it's gotten really good feedback from brokers. And so we see the broker channel, the broker distribution, continuing to be a strong channel for us. Country-wise, we're licensed in all 50 states in the US. So, US for us is pretty much an open market. In Europe, we're looking to scale across more countries in Europe, because at the moment, we actually just launched in Europe. So Germany, Italy, and Austria, but looking to scale into more. We're also licensed in, we're also working with Japan and selling in Israel as well. So, I think from a licensing perspective, we're good. We have fantastic partners, but again, always looking for more. Cloud downtime insurance is really, really huge for us.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's always good at execute on the thing that you're really good at to start with, hey. And I was going to tell a funny story about another insurtech, but I won't. That's a bit rude. Look, Neta, I'm really conscious of your time, but one thing I've started doing and I like doing at the moment, which is, obviously you guys are scaling. Wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of shout out for any. Are you hiring people at the moment? Should people reach out to you guys? What's the best way to sort of go about that? Want to sort of spread the word for your business as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. We are hiring, nonstop. So our careers page, you can scroll through it, and there's plenty of positions, both from insurance related positions to very technical, architects in software. So we really have everything across the board. We're also always looking for fantastic partners. We have a lot of great success with working with partners in the insurance industry. And I think one of the things that we have done well early on was partner with the insurance industry and not go against it, which we see a lot of startups kind of, say, insurance is broken, we're fixing it. And I think we're working alongside the insurance partners that we have, and we see a lot of success in that. And so that's something that we will always continue to do. Follow along. We're just at the tip of the iceberg of our potential, gaining fantastic traction, and the sky's the limit at this point.
Amazing. I think it's a lovely place to end it. I can't believe we got to the end, and I nearly not mention it, because I've always loved you guys have that message of you're not coming in and telling the insurance industry it's broken. You're saying it does a lot of things really, really well, but there's this new product, and we think we've got a really smart way of solving that problem, and I completely agree. So thank you once again for being a great guest. It's really it's a pleasure to have you guys on. You're some people that we've wanted to get on for a while, so yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.